Sometimes hiring a bookkeeper can feel unaffordable, especially if you are a small business or you're just starting out, or maybe your gig is more of a side hustle than your main job. And let's be real, a lot of folks wait until tax time to properly go over their business's finances. It's not ideal, but it's okay. It happens to a lot of my clients, and I've been there before too. It can be incredibly overwhelming to try to stay on top of your finances when you're also trying to wear about 5 to 20 other hats in your business. Oh, by the way, if we haven't met before, my name is Andrew Bloom. I am the main accountant and owner of Profit Logic, my accounting firm, and I am also a PhD student in business with a concentration in accounting. And I'll begin this video by saying that bookkeeping is hands down my favorite kind of accounting work. And while I would much rather do this kind of job for you so that you can go back to your business and do the thing that you do best there in your expertise while I get to exercise my expertise, I also understand that sometimes you just have to bootstrap and do everything yourself, including your business's books and your record keeping for the year. So instead, I just quickly want to help you make sure you get your books cleaned up in the right way, as accurate as possible, without having an accounting degree. And this even helps me in the long run and other accountants because when you finally get to turn over your books to a professional, it'll be a lot easier to get that cleaned up and sorted and up to date versus if you just try to do all this by yourself without any guidance. So I am happy to make this video and give it to you for free. And by the end of this tutorial, you should be able to be in a place to sit down and get your books cleaned up for the entire year in just one day. For this project, I recommend that you expect to set aside at least 4 hours if this is just for like a side gig, and probably more like 8 to 12 if this is your main business, depending on the size of your business and the number of transactions you have from month to month. But before we begin, I do want to let you know about a special get out of jail free card I'm going to give you right now that you can use at any time while you're watching this video. If at any point this feels overwhelming and you just don't want to do it yourself, or you don't trust yourself to do this accurately, I want you to go down into that description box below and you're going to click on the link that leads you to my scheduling page at the Profit Logic homepage, where you can set up a time to talk with me to go over your business and how I can do this whole cleanup for you, as well as provide you any other bookkeeping services you might need. And right now, in the month of July, my birthday month, I am offering a 12-month cleanup for just $999. And that may sound like a lot of money, but this is actually a ridiculously sweet deal. Most CPA firms and other bookkeepers would not do this kind of work, this kind of backlog work for under $3,000. Also, I partner with a tax preparer who could get your taxes filed, get you all situated and up to date for 2024 as soon as possible. So consider this a one-stop shop. So if you feel like you're not good with numbers, or you're just over it and don't want to deal with this financial headache anymore and you just want to move on with your life in peace, then please reach out. I would be more than happy to help you. Okay, you got the spiel. Now that you know that you have this backup support, let's dive in and go over how you can get your books up to date, DIY style, in just one day. Let's jump on the screens. Okay, so we're going to go over a 5-step process that will get you from disorganized financial mess to a complete set of completed books for the last year, any year, but in this example today, I'm thinking specifically about 2024. And with your books up to date in this way, you could send the final information for your business for the year to your accountant or your tax preparer and get your taxes filed if you haven't already. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to use a fictitious consulting business as the example, and we're going to use Wave as the accounting and bookkeeping software. This is the software I like to use with my clients most often because it is simple to use and it's very user-friendly compared to something like QuickBooks, which usually has a stronger learning curve. Although I do also work with QuickBooks for clients who are bigger businesses or have things like inventory or projects to track, which are much more complex and better accommodated for in QuickBooks. But for most of you watching, I'm guessing you're a small business, you will likely benefit from using something like Wave. especially if you plan on continuing to DIY your books yourself. Here we have Wave's homepage. You can sign up for an account or log into one if you have one already. But before we even dive into Wave, the first step is going to be to gather all of the relevant materials about your business's finances. This is going to be all your business card information, like your banking, your credit cards. If you have any loans that you took out for the year or were paying off through the year, you need that information as well. Same thing if you purchased any vehicles for your business, as well as any 1099s you might have received for any non-employment contracting work you did. But basically, you want to gather all the relevant information that pertains to your business's finances. You're also going to need things like your bank statements and credit card statements for your business. But for now, just make sure you have that login information to those accounts ready at hand. So once you have all of the relevant business information gathered, the next step is to either set up or log in to your accounting software. For some of you, it could just be your QuickBooks or your Wave account. If you haven't signed up for an account before and you're not sure which one to use, my quick rule is if you're a small business and you have no inventory, you'll likely benefit from using Wave, especially if you're mainly a service business and you're just sending out invoices. QuickBooks is great too, and that's the industry gold standard. I talk a little bit about each software on this channel, so you can look through and find those videos. But I also recently just made a video on how to get set up in Wave, and you can check that out with that card above here. So the first part of this step is to get your accounting software up and going. For this example, I'm going to guide you through what it looks like to do this in Wave, because the goal of using this software is to get all of your financial information in one place and rely on the software to basically do the math for you and provide you with the information you're going to need to be able to do your taxes, as well as check in on the financial health of your business. So let's say you signed up for Wave, and I'm going to show you the dashboard. This is the fictitious company that we're going to use as an example, called Bright Consulting. Here's its dashboard. The first thing you're going to want to do is connect your bank account, and for that you will need to sign up for Pro in Wave to do this, which I highly recommend. It's pretty cheap. I think something like 16 bucks a month, and less than that, something like 14 bucks a month if you pay it annually up front. So you're going to want to connect every single bank account that is relevant to your business. It should be in your business's name. From the get-go, you should already be separating your business transactions from your personal transactions, but I'll comment later how to add in transactions if you made business purchases, for example, on like a personal credit card. Link all of the business bank accounts. This will look like checking account, credit card. And once that happens and you're properly set up, again, check out that setup video I made, because you'll want to make sure you have a list of your products and services in here. You're going to want to make sure you have your chart of accounts set up. And these are all the things I cover in that video. So if you haven't set up Wave before, go watch that, get your account set up, and then come back, because now the next step, once everything is connected, step number 3 is to go over every single one of your transactions. And since this is a starter account in Wave, I just made up a bunch of transactions that we're going to categorize together so I could teach you in this video what you're going to keep an eye out for when it comes to common transactions that you're going to need to categorize. And the way I like to go about this process is you're going to go month by month by month. So first you're going to categorize everything for a month, and then we'll do the next step, which is bank reconciliation for that month. You're going to make sure everything's accurate before you move on to the next month. You could also theoretically just categorize everything in bulk and then do the next step of bank reconciliation, but I think it's smart to just do a little bit at a time so that if there's any mistake, you can catch it early, because early mistakes in your bookkeeping will affect your accounts later on in the year. And this is the step, the categorizing of transactions, that will take the most amount of time. In Wave, you can sort your transactions from your oldest to newest. let's just pretend for this account we're just going over the business checking account for this consulting firm. So you're going to go from transaction by transaction, and you're going to categorize it appropriate to what the transaction was. For example, we here have rent. If you go down to your expense accounts, it was an expense for your business. You're going to look for rent. And here we have a rent expense. And once everything looks good, I like to check it off, mark as review, to know that I already categorized and checked over the transaction. So you're going to do that for each of your transactions. Sometimes when you're pulling in from your bank feed, you're going to see things that you do not remember. It's just been too long. For that, I recommend having your email account open in another tab in your browser window so that you can just do a little research and check and see, oh, what was that thing I got in January? All right, let me look for all of my January receipts or invoices. That'll be a good way to kind of refresh your memory and know exactly what was going on and what the purchase was. So that is the example of categorizing your transactions. The most common transactions you're going to see are 1, income, 2, expenses, and 3, transfers, moving from one bank account to another. And I do have an example of that we're going to go over soon. And lastly, I'll include a 4th one. It'll be transfers that are from the business back to you as an owner. So we'll go over that too. So for now, we're going to go over these one by one. And when you're filling out these categories, if you know you have a reoccurring transaction, so you know you're paying rent every single month on the first of the month, I recommend selecting this transaction, scrolling down to the next transaction, the same one, rent, same thing in March, we got rent. And basically when all those transactions are selected, you can click this button here, the pencil. It's a bulk edit transaction button. And the thing you're going to want to edit, what you want to do is to change the category, and all of them are going to be changing to that rent expense. And you can click here to just automatically mark all these as reviewed. And we'll apply that since it's much quicker to do things in bulk and one by one. And we'll look at the next transaction. We have liability insurance. We'll deselect the rent, and we're going to do the same thing for general liability. You can also come up to the search transactions. If you know they're all coming up looking the same, then you can search for them there and quickly select all these transactions to change them in bulk. So that's getting done quick. Make sure you deselect before you do anything else. And then we're going to go ahead and do that again for the website subscription. Hit select all, make sure it's just this kind of transaction we're looking at. We'll bulk edit, change the category, and this is the part of computer software. Let's say it's like a Wix subscription, and make sure you deselect everything once you're done. So we went over expenses. For another type of transaction you're going to commonly see is a transfer. And sometimes these are the ones that are going to mess up your reconciliation the most. They're the most confusing. A lot of folks don't know how to properly categorize them, and pay particular attention because some banks will credit an account before it actually receives the money. So sometimes it'll look like the amount was duplicated. Okay, so for the next kind of transaction, we're going to be setting up a transfer. We're going to pretend that you paid your credit card minimum payment and you want to reflect that in your bookkeeping. This is going to look a little different when you're dealing with connected accounts, but I'll show you what it looks like here. Basically, go click on the category Instead of coming down here looking for an expense, this is not an expense. This is actually a transfer from one account to another. You're going to click on transfer to bank, credit card, or loan, and it'll look a little different. If you're using a connected account, it'll show that the other side of this transaction should be showing up on that credit card, and it'll give you the option to select that. I'll see if I could pull up an image here to show you what it looks like in my own software for my own business account. But basically, since we're doing this manually, we're going to count it as a transfer to the business credit card, and when that happens, you're going to see it create a new entry for the business credit card account. So here, this was just money coming out of the business checking account, that $75 minimum payment. And because this is a manual transaction we created, well, technically we're debiting the credit card account, and that shows up here. So these are linked, they're valid, because this is going to bring down the balance sitting on that credit card. It is not an expense, it is a transfer. So make sure that's something you're categorizing properly. The next transaction type we're looking at here is income, and you'll know what money coming in looks like because it's going to be highlighted green in Wave. So for this, categorize this according to your income accounts, and this is where I emphasize when you're setting up your accounts, you're going to want to know what your products and services are so that you can categorize that income correctly. We're going to count this as consulting income, and we'll mark it as review. For the sake of having a diverse number of transactions, I set up, I think, 4 different clients noted as C1, C2, C3 with different types of income coming in. So we're going to just bulk categorize these, all of these forms of income. We'll select all. Make sure we're only dealing with the consulting fee income. Looks good. We'll bulk edit these, change the category to consulting income, and mark them as reviewed. Okay. Now, once those are deselected, we'll go back to our transactions list and continue with categorizing the transactions, and when possible, doing bulk categorizing. Now, I can bulk categorize the rest of these without showing you, now that you know what this looks like, but there were a couple transactions I added in here just so I can show you a few examples of other types of transactions you're going to come across that you might not necessarily know how to do in Wave. So one of them is going to be an example of when you personally withdraw from the business account to put that money into your own personal account. And this is common, especially if you're an LLC. This is the way you pay yourself. You don't necessarily have a salary. So let's say in this business, they are paying themselves on a quarterly basis. And here we have, at the end of March, a withdrawal to the personal account from the business checking account. The type of category this is not an expense. You are going to go down to personal expense or withdrawal. You'll select that. It's counted as what's known as an owner investment or drawing. So anytime you put money into the business or you take money out, that is owner investment when it's going in. So you're putting your own money into the business, you're buying something for the business, or it's coming out because you're paying yourself, or you're taking back funds that your business had borrowed from you. So we're going to count that as owner drawing, mark it as reviewed, and I think I did that for each quarter, these withdrawals to personal accounts, so I'm going to bulk categorize them. This is going to be owner investment drawing, and we'll mark them as reviewed. I don't know if you noticed, but the convenient little tabs for very specific transactions don't show up in the bulk edit, so it helps to know what these accounts are, so you can do this on your own. Okay, so deselect that. And another kind of transaction that you might see coming up is a refund. So let's say in this scenario, one of the clients decides they had to cancel and they couldn't make it for their monthly appointment, and maybe you're really nice, let you know ahead of time, you decide to refund them for the month. So when you're dealing with a refund, it's gonna want to look like it's an expense. It is not an expense. This is a refund. You're gonna go down and select refund for income, and it's gonna be specifically, we know that it was consulting income. You'll have to know what your refund is for, and you'll select that here. By the way, this also works for expenses as well. I'll just show you when there's money coming in, you'll see an option for a refund for expense. So when you do have refunds for your purchases, look for that category. Okay, let's see. I don't know if there was anything else I was going to show you with this. Let me get these transactions both categorized, and then we're going to talk about what you're going to do in the next step after all of your transactions have been categorized for the month and you're ready to move forward. Okay, so let's say you finished with January, you got all those transactions categorized. The next step you're going to take is to reconcile the account. And to do that, you're going to go over to under accounting, reconciliation, and you're going to want to make sure that you have your bank statements for this account. You'll have to do each account individually. Basically, you'll want to do this for your physical accounts, for your business checking and savings, as well as your business credit card. As an example, I'm going to show you the checking account. You're going to click Get Started and start reconciling, and you'll pull up your bank statement. And on the bank statement, it should have the ending balance date and the ending balance amount. You're going to get that information, and you'll add it into this field here, and you'll want to make sure it's correct. And once that happens, you'll click Save, and if the bank statement matches what's in Wave, you'll get this wonderful, exciting, celebratory message that the account is reconciled. And you'll do that for each month. So if you want to add a period, you'll click this button here, Add a Period. It'll let you add in the next month, add that balance. Here's an example of what it looks like if it is not reconciled. So I just put in a different number than what would have been accurate. And when it's not reconciled, so there's a difference, it's going to show you a list of all of the transactions that are in Wave. And what you're supposed to do is take out your physical bank statement or pull up the document on your computer, and one by one match and make sure those transactions that are here in Wave are also on the bank statement and vice versa. You can use this match button to help keep track of what you're looking at. You can also click on these transactions and edit them here. So maybe you see it wasn't actually a $200 fee, maybe it was $198. You could change that here without leaving the reconciliation screen. So you'll want to do that for each month. And you'll also want to do that for each account. So that's what reconciliation looks like. So once you have that month reconciled, you can go ahead and do your transactions for February. Again, doing this month-by-month process. Do a month of categorizing, do a month of reconciliation. Fix it while it's early. Do a month of categorization, do a month of reconciliation. And you do that all the way up to whatever point you're trying to get to. It could be just till the end of 2024 or all the way up until now. And once that's done, there is one bonus step you can take that you should take, but if you don't have the time, totally understandable, is that you want to include all the documentation for each of these transactions. So while you're categorizing, you can add receipts or copies of invoices to the transaction. So here there's an upload receipt button. This will let you pull files from your computer to add a receipt. It can be pretty time consuming. Maybe it's not the best practice, but alternatively, you can keep a Google Drive folder with each separate month having its own folder and just put your receipts into those folders. In the event of an audit, you know where to find them quickly. But now, on to the final step. When this is all done, the next thing you're going to do is pull some reports. And to do that, you'll come down to the reports section of the nav bar. And one of the most important reports you're going to be looking at is the profit and loss or income statement. If you're looking to do your taxes, you are going to want the calendar year. And you'll update that report. And this is going to give you an idea of how much income your business had for the year, what the expenses looked like, and what your overall profit was. And if you look at the details, you'll see the expenses split up into their categories. Your accountant is going to need this profit and loss report for the year to be able to file your taxes. Or if you're filing your taxes yourself, this is where you get the information for your expenses for your Schedule C, as well as income you might be paying your taxes on, such as self-employment tax. However, for your own records, so you can get a feel of how your business did, I recommend getting a report for each month of the year. So starting in January, just one by one, getting a feel for how did your business do month to month to month. You'll also see it in your dashboard as well. If you go down to profit and loss, the transactions were pretty much the same, so it's going to look the same month to month. You'll get this bar chart showing you a feel of what everything looked like. Were there months where you made more income or less income? Was it consistent? This is the kind of financial information that you can use to reflect on what you did in your business that worked or didn't work, and what your overall cash flow felt like for the year. And that's what these bar charts are really good for. But back to reports, another statement you might want to look at is your balance sheet. This will give you an overview of all of the assets that your company owns and all the liabilities, all the things you owe to others, and your credit card accounts, any loans, and basically what's left over. This is going to be your equity, what your business's value actually is. So it's nice to know at the end of the year where your business stands. How much is it? What is its net worth, if you will? And a balance sheet is very much a snapshot of a moment in time. What it looks like today might look a lot different from where it was at the end of the year. Those, I'd say, are the main reports that you'd want to look at. Cash flow is also really useful, especially if you get all kinds of different service work and you might be purchasing a lot of supplies. You're going to want to get a feel for, are there any trends like during the year? Are there certain months that are seasonal and you might be making more or less money, and how do you plan for that into the future? So cash flow can be a really useful report as well. If you owe sales tax, you'll want to know your sales tax report so that you can pay your state government. And same thing with payroll, as well as age receivables and age payables will tell you if there's any money that is owed to you by your customers to you, or that you owe your vendors that might be hanging out for a while. So those are reports, and that is the final step in this process. By now, if you did this on your own and you made it through, congratulations. That is probably one of the most time-consuming things you've done in a minute, and there is nothing more relieving to know that everything is organized and up to date with your books. Honestly, that is one of the reasons why I love being a bookkeeper, is that there's actually an answer to these problems. There is a solution, and it's really fun to get everything nice and organized for my clients so that they can go on making better decisions in their businesses. By the way, if you have personal transactions that you purchase through your own personal credit cards or checking account, I think one of the better ways is to add those transactions manually. Do not try to upload your personal accounts into the software. It's going to create a lot of mess and a lot of potential for error. So instead, go through one by one each of your own personal cards, check off the transactions that were made for your business, and then make these manual transactions. Whether If it was an expense, it's usually a withdrawal. If it was a form of income, usually that's a deposit. Unless you know double entry bookkeeping, do not try to add a journal entry. You're probably going to screw up your books. Just focus on adding withdrawals or deposits. All right, to recap, first, you gathered all of your business's financial information and documentation, so your banking information, your credit card information, your bank statements, any invoices, or any 1099s relevant to your business's work. And then in the next step, you set up your software or you got all of your accounts connected on your current accounting software. And then once everything was in the software, you went and categorized all of your transactions, whether it was income, expense, a transfer, or a refund. You might have added receipts, put them into a Google Drive folder, and then you went and reconciled each month after categorizing each month. And once everything looked clean and accurate, you ran your reports in the final step. And assuming they look good, now you are caught up and you are able to file taxes if you haven't already, and you're in a much better position to continue doing your books yourself. Moving forward, if you plan on continuing to DIY your books, I recommend doing this process that you did on a monthly basis at least, if not just categorizing everything weekly and then doing your reconciliation at the end of the month. There are some accounting intricacies where you may make mistakes, and that's okay. Usually if you're a small enough business, it won't matter too much in the long run. But by now you should have a good idea of what bookkeeping looks like and what this routine could look like for you as a business owner. Again, if you ever feel like you are ready to scale up or you just don't want to do this yourself anymore, I'm here and ready to be your accountant and bookkeeper. I also partner with RT Accounting to help you get connected with someone who could do your taxes. Just feel free to set up a call and we could figure out how that support system could look like for you. Again, pat yourself on the back. You just went through a really big process. You accomplished something huge for the year. And I look forward to seeing you in more accounting and bookkeeping tutorials. I'll see you there.